pretty pleased to be able to talk to you all, well, from Melbourne and where you all are. First of all, I'd just like to also acknowledge that I know you've already done your own acknowledgement of country, and I'm, of course, pleased to be meeting with you from Wurundjeri country. And I just want to acknowledge the elders past and present of this land that was never ceded. So you've heard a little bit about me just in my introduction about the Commission. Just about me, just so you know. So I'm actually blind, so I'm hoping you can all see me, and that's all that matters. And hopefully, and you can all hear me, or most of you can hear me, depending on the delays and everything. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you all about the Commission. I'll try and keep it tight because I'm really keen to sort of take questions. So we, the Victorian Disability Worker Commission, commenced its work in mid-2020. And so that part of our role was all about really taking complaints and notifications on a range of issues to do with safety and quality of the work of disability support workers. We then, 12 months later, so in mid last year, started the Disability Worker Registration Scheme. So that's the two kind of things we do. And which I'll come back to and talk in more detail in a moment. The background to this organisation is a few years ago, the Victorian Parliament held an inquiry which found an inquiry into disability services in Victoria and found serious issues with safety and neglect for people with disabilities in Victoria, and recommended the establishment of this scheme and this office. And that was happening, all the while, whilst at a Commonwealth level, there were things being established to do with the NDIS, and the NDIS Commission was also under development. We operate separately from the NDIS and the NDIS Commission. Obviously, we have arrangements with them. We talk to particularly the NDIS Commission quite a bit, and where possible, we share information about different findings and that kind of thing. The thing that I always try and make really clear is that we cover all disability workers in Victoria. Around about half of the disability workers in Victoria are NDIS employed, partly or fully. And so there is overlap with the NDIS Commission, but there's a whole lot of, there's thousands of other workers, as some of you would know, thousands of other people doing disability work in Victoria who have nothing to do with the NDIS, and we also cover them. So we can take complaints about any disability worker, and it's about the work they do, not about who funds them or how they're employed or anything like that. It's about the work they do as a disability worker or as a disability practitioner. So we also cover people who would be identified as professionals working in the field, like, say, physiotherapists or maybe social workers or OTs, that kind of thing. And so that's the kind of coverage. The complaints, so as I said before, we take, since mid-2020, we've been receiving complaints and notifications. Notifications are probably the area of interest to all of you, I think. Notifications are a requirement of any organisation who employs disability workers, or any disability worker who sees another disability worker putting a person with disability at risk of harm. In our Act, there's 4 reasons or bases for those notifications. And they are, if a disability worker is found to be undertaking disability work whilst intoxicated, if a disability worker is engaging in sexual misconduct while working as a disability worker. If a disability worker is working whilst with an impairment that puts people with disability at risk, or if a disability worker is contravening accepted professional standards, which is a bit of a catch-all really for us. And that's where most of our notifications are captured. And I reiterate, those are about putting a person with disability at risk. So that's the base of notifications. I always say, particularly with a new scheme like this, I always say, if you feel you have an obligation to notify us of any of these elements, but you haven't done it before, give us a call and talk to one of our people. We don't want to be wasting people's time. It's a lot easier if you can have a brief conversation to see if this is an issue where we need to be notified. Just let us know. Just give us a call. We also take complaints, and so unlike notifications, complaints can be received from anybody, and there is a lower threshold for us to receive a complaint. Now, most of our complaints also come from other disability workers, service providers, but also people with disabilities and their families. The main basis for those complaints is the Code of Conduct. Our Code of Conduct is the same as the NDIS Code of Conduct, just to at least simplify things on that level. And many of you will know the 7 elements of the Code of Conduct, just to quickly reiterate those. So the first one is workers must respect people's rights to freedom of expression and self-determination, the respect of people's privacy, the respect to privacy of people with disabilities, provide services in a safe and competent manner, act with care and integrity, and work in a way that promotes the quality and safety of the supports and services. The 6th one is about doing everything you can to avoid and stop violence and exploitation against people with disabilities. And the 7th one is to prevent sexual misconduct. So, and they're all on our website, obviously. But that's the Code of Conduct, which many of you will be aware of. And again, we also urge people to get in contact with us to make a complaint or send us an email, lodge something online, and we'll often talk to people to help make that a robust complaint. And as sometimes happens with complaints, sometimes we're not quite the right people to be going to. As I said, we regulate workers. Now that regulation of disability workers also covers their managers and supervisors, but sometimes a complaint is more about an organisation. And so in that case, the organisation is actually more regulated by, if it's NDIS funded, then it's the NDIS Commission. If it's a state funded organisation, then it's the State Disability Services Commission. And I'm frustrated for you and for everybody that there is a bit of a patchwork of regulation in this field that I'm certainly talking to government to try and improve on. So that's our complaints and notifications for all workers in Victoria. Just briefly, we also have a disability worker registration scheme. It's a voluntary scheme, and we have a disability worker registration board who oversees the registration scheme and sets standards for workers to meet. So that and basically the registration scheme is really all about providing opportunity for workers to say, I'm proud to be a disability worker. I meet these standards. So not just the NDIS worker screen, which we we cover in registration too, but also some standards about saying I've got a certain level of education, I've got certain experience, and as we'll introduce in our second and third year, I'm meeting continuing professional development requirements, and you can see details about me on the Disability Worker Register, which is on our website. So that's a relatively new thing. That's only been introduced in the last sort of 6 or 8 months, and we're working to promote that to workers as a way, and to employers as a way of saying these are people that meet this standard and are continuing to update their skills and knowledge in the field. I'm even a little bit early. I'm happy to talk more about the work of the Commission and how we kind of operate and everything, but I'm very keen to take questions and everything and hear from you. If anyone's put anything in the chat, that's fine. But if the chair or someone could let me know if there's any questions in the chat, really happy to hear that too. So I'll hand back to you now. Thanks.